Chapter 2, Lost Spring. Good morning and Jai Hind students. I am Kanchan here, your English teacher, and I have taken this chapter from the book Flamingo. So let's read. Stories of stolen childhood means stories that had taken away childhood of the children due to poverty. And about the author Anis Jung was born in 1964, was born in Rourkela and spent her childhood and adolescence in Hyderabad, and she received her education in Hyderabad and in the United States of America. So her parents were both writers, and Anis Jung began her career as a writer in India, and she has been an editor and columnist for major newspapers and in India and abroad. So it is about her work and has authored several books also. So the following is an excerpt from her book titled Lost Spring. So stories of stolen childhood. Here she analyzes the grinding poverty and traditions which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. So just I am reading here. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. So let's discuss what does it mean. Why do you do this? I ask Sahib. Sahib is a boy, and the author when she looks at him means his name is Sahib, and she asks, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. So Sahib was a boy, and when he was trying to find out something, then curiously the author wanted to ask what he was searching there. Sahib left his home long ago, and Sahib had left his home before so many years ago and set amidst the green fields of Dhaka, and his home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes. It is about their worse condition, and his mother tells him that's why they left, looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. Means anyhow, due to storms, they have to leave their own city, and their own houses were swept away in storm. So it was difficult condition for them to survive. Means his mother tells that when their houses were swept away, then they were without shelter, and they had moved to a big city in the hope to have a better life in city. So I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. And go to school, I say glibly. Then the author also asked, why do you not go to school? Realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound, and she was really thinking that she was advising, and then what type of sound will be, what type of answer will be. There is no school. Sahib would tell that there is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. And he would say that when they will build one school, then he will go to study. If I start a school, author would say, will you come? I ask, half joking. Means author would say, if I start a school, will you come? Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? And a few days later, after some days, I see him running up to me, and he came to the author and asked about a school. It takes longer to build a school, I say, and author replied that it will take enough time to make a school. Embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant, and she was also embarrassed that it was her promise, and it was that she could not fulfill. she could not build a school for them, but promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. So, after months of knowing him, I asked him his name, and then author asked his name, and his name was Sahibe Alam. And he announces, he told, he does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe, because Sahibe Alam means Lord, means superior, means king, right? So he would have a hard time believing it, unaware of what his name. He was not aware about the meaning of his name, Sahibe Alam, and he roams the streets with his friends and army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Means Sahib was with his gang to just like searching something in garbage to find out something, and over the months I have come to recognize each of them, and it take a month to recognize their name and also recognize them. Why are not you wearing chappals? Then the author asked, why have you not wore chappals? My mother did not. And Sahib answered that my mother did not bring them down from the shelf. So even if she did it, and then another boy, he replied that if his mother did, he will throw them off. Adds another boy, who is wearing shoes that do not match. And another boy was also wearing shoes that were not matching. They don't have match. They were not matching. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. And then he said that I want shoes. Now, traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities, on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot. So it is not due to a lack of money, but it had become a tradition to stay barefoot, means without wearing anything in the foot. So is one explanation. So they would say that it is tradition. You can say here they are barefoot without wearing any slipper or shoes. So I wonder, the author was surprised, if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Means they would not say that they didn't have money. Instead, they would say that it is tradition that they are without slippers. I remember a story. A man from UDP is also name of place once told me, as a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. Means this is also critical condition, that a boy was there. He would go to school past an old temple, and he would go to school, and he would also go to an old temple where his father was a priest. His father was priest there, and he would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair, and he would pray for a pair of shoes because he wanted. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. In the backyard where lived the new priest. So there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting. Panting means breathing huffily, and threw his school bag on a folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess, and they were praying when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. I don't want to lose them. And the goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes because they had got, and the priest's son also got shoes. So he was praying for a pair of shoes. But many others like the rag pickers in my neighborhood remain shoeless. So this is pitiable condition of those children. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it, and metaphorically it has a long distance. And those who live here are squatters who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. So here squatters are those people who just capture, or they take unlawfully a land that is uninhabited. So those people are, and sahibs, families among them. So Simapuri was then a wilderness, means nobody was living there, and it still is, but it is no longer empty. In structures of mud with roof of tin and tarpaulin, divide of sewage, drainage, or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. Means this has been now inhabited, and they have, means the people, they started living, but in wretched condition, but they started living. Anyhow, they had managed. They have lived here for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits, but with ration cards that get their names on voters. So lists and enable them to buy grain. So they have only a ration card so that they could get grain, and also they are also important for voting. So food is more important for survival than any identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain, say a group of women in tattered saris. Tattered means worn saris, means that is totally in rough condition and torn. When I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green, so author wanted to ask why did they leave their own houses, fields and rivers. Whenever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit homes. So it was temporary home because it was not made of brick and cement and also other material. So children grow up them and becoming partners in survival because they had to work with their parents. And survival in Simapuri means rag picking. So through the years it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. Garbage to them is gold because they find there something that they can also sell. So it is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it is a leaking roof, but for a child it is even more. So they are in a very worst condition, and hardly they are there able to survive, and they have temporary houses. Anyhow, they have made their shelter to live. Anyhow, they are just living there. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, Sahib says. And he would say that sometimes I find a rupee, even sometimes I find a 10 rupee note. His eyes lighting up, means he would become very happy at that time. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is hope of finding more, and he would be very happy there at that time, telling that. And it seems that for children garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For the children it is wrapped in wonder, for the elders it is a means of survival. Yes, it is very correct, because for elders it is means of survival, means they would send their children to get something so that they could survive. And for children it was kind of wonder, kind of something new to find out in the garbage. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, and he said that I like to play that game, and content to watch it standing behind the fence, I go inside when no one is around, and he admits the gatekeeper lets me use the swing. So here Sahib wanted to play the tennis, and Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes, because once it was just thrown by a rich boy, and who was also playing tennis, and there was a hole and in that shoes, and he had thrown this that, and so Sahib had found. And this morning Sahib is on his way to the milk booth, and in his hand is a steel canister. And I now work in a tea stall down and the road, he says, and pointing in the distance, I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, he has lost the carefree look. And then author asked, do you like to do this job? Then he didn't answer. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly, so over his shoulder. So the bag was his, and the canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop, and Sahib is no longer his own master. Now this is the poor condition of those poor children who are just helpless to because they didn't have this time, they don't have their own childhood days to spend merrily, happily, and they are forced to do work because they have to survive, and also they have to help their parents. Okay, Jai Hind students. I will take next part in my next video. Thank you and Jai Hind.